The Orphan Bank. John, do you want to talk about the Orphan Bank?
About half a mile down Langmeil Road, there's a little housing estate now called Langmeil Estate. Nothing to do with us, it just bears the same name as the village. But that too was a vineyard, in the time of the village, right up until 2006. And it's another case of us not owning, but buying the fruit from the grower. And it was 1850s planted, Shiraz. And in 2004, the owner of the vineyard gave us 2 years' notice. He said that that struggle every year, which you can appreciate, of having to hand prune old vines and hand pick your fruit and hoping that the fruit's going to set well and it's going to ripen and that you're going to get good dollars for it, etc. As opposed to the offer to be able to turn that into residential land, because it's one of those little patches that was still within the residential zoning of the Barossa. So he gave us 2 years' notice that the vineyard was going to be going, that we could have the fruit in 2005 and 2006, and once it had been picked in 2006, they were planting houses there instead. We can completely appreciate their position, but likewise we thought it was a great shame that another of the old parcels of the Barossa was going to go. We didn't have anything on this property growing down along the edge of the river, so over those 2 years, which sounds like a long period of time, but it was really 2-3 month windows while the vines were dormant, we tried to save some of those vines. And it wasn't about saving genetics, that's easily done, you just take some cuttings and replant. We wanted to save those vines that had been toiling along the river here for 160 odd years at that point. So we literally dug up and moved just over 300 vines over those 2 years. We used a device that was adapted from what you use for moving mature age trees. So if you can imagine like a collar of hydraulic spades that you literally wrap around the vine and dig into the soil. It didn't bring the plant, it brought half a tonne of its own soil and a big ball of its feeder roots with it. And one by one we brought them down the road and relocated them. And we moved over those 2 years just over 300 vines, 340 vines. We lost 10%. So we had a pretty good success rate. And it's like a little bank of orphan vines, if you like, growing on the banks of the North Para of the river down there. So that's the foundation vineyard and the foundation name for the wine.
What's really interesting about the Orphan Bank Shiraz is, again, it's the fact that someone cherished old living plants and wanted to save them. And the thing also is we didn't have a lot of money. So, while we were going, bugger it, we're just going to move that whole vineyard a kilometre down the road and replant it. We did something like 1,000 kilometres by tractor, just one vine at a time. And Jonathan actually said, well, geez, if you really want to try to make some, recoup some money, orphan them out, And so we actually found all those vines, we sold them. So someone come and bought a vine for $500 and become a parent of an orphan vine, and then every year we'd send them a bottle of Orphan Bank in the post, and then we'd invite them to come and pick their vine. Then we'd feed them, make sure they were well watered, I think is the term, and but they had this connection. And so what we did find is people like us, like-minded people that go, oh my God, you're trying to save this incredibly old vineyard. We want to be a part of that. How can we help? And we could have sold those vines over and over and over again. And then after 10 years, we said, hey, look, that's enough. We can't just keep giving money away now. But you're a part and connected to the winery, forever. And so yeah,
it was really crowdfunding ahead of its time. It was, this is what we're doing. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can adopt a vine. Well, it was really a fostering program. They fostered a vine for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I would have done that.
Yeah. There you go.
And we could have sold them so many times. But importantly, what the Orphan Bank also has to represent, though, is the reason why we did it. Because if the old vines didn't make great wine, why would you move them?